Did everybody have a good Liberation Day? Did you get a Hallmark card? Did you celebrate? Did you get a cake? Well, that's what the president called yesterday, Liberation Day, and it's all about tariffs. Now, normally talking about tariffs and trade and taxes and everything is the most boring thing on earth. But I think when you put it into perspective with what I call the Canadian cheese example, a lot of this makes a lot more sense. Here's my question, though. All we're hearing through the media, all they're telling us is tariffs are taxes, tariffs are taxes. But are they in the long term? And are we tough enough to survive the short-term impact to get long-term gain? I think we are this time. I really do. I had my doubts at first, but I think we are. So we'll talk about that. I promise it won't make it boring. There's a possibility that talking about tariffs is incredibly boring, but I'm telling you, when you hear the cheese example, it might turn around. Also, once again, we've got another naked Spirit Airlines passenger. And I know Spirit Airlines has been called the Walmart of the skies, but this is once again a naked Spirit Airlines passenger at Fort Lauderdale Airport, which is, if not the hub, one of their hubs. I don't know why we have a growing trend of crazy people getting naked, but it's happening. In the last 3 months, we've had 4 of these stories. On board, and this lady wasn't on board, thankfully, but she still got naked. We'll talk about that as well. What would you do if you're confronted by a naked? I think they get naked because nobody, not even the cops, wants to touch a naked person, right? Maybe that's why they do it. I don't know. And a heartwarming story to wrap it up today we'll get to. A cartel supporting, and I mean that because they projected images on their stage presentation, a cartel supporting mariachi band has been deported. Their visas have been revoked. Adios. We'll talk about that too. Thanks for finding Wicked Radio, the live stream. Appreciate you so much. All part of Wicked Wisdom. You can find that in all the social pages. Wherever you like to get your podcast to, just look for that right there on all your favorite podcast platforms and all that good stuff. And then the replay right here on X as well, and on YouTube and Facebook. And you know how this thing works. I don't have to explain it. All right, let's get right to it. Liberation Day, the president called it. In fact, it was a big ceremony on the White House lawn. Here we go.
My fellow Americans, this is Liberation Day. Waiting for a long time.
Okay, then he explained it, and the president loves his charts and graphs. You know that. He brought them out, and he brought out speakers as well to explain this whole thing. And this is where you may not even be a fan of Trump. Maybe you didn't vote for him. I don't know. But he's really good at breaking this down and boiling it down so people can understand this whole thing, right? And I have my questions as well. And I know talking about trade and tariffs and taxes is not always the most exciting thing. Trust me, I totally get that. But the reason why it's been presented in a boring kind of way before is so that it slips under the wire and we don't pay attention to it. I mean, think about this, right? You're sitting down and maybe you're watching the news, you're scrolling through some headlines, and you're like, well, that story, tariffs, and I don't want to find out about that. Well, that's how we got here, to be honest with you. We did, because we didn't pay attention to it. And you're thinking, well, why are we taking on Canada? Well, you know, why Canada? It's our neighbors to the north. Why are we fighting them so much? Well, listen to this. And this is something I heard a couple of years ago, actually. And it's the cheese example that wraps this all up and kind of explains exactly how we've been raked over the coals, because none of us have paid attention to tariffs before for years and years until now, right? Trump tried to take care of this in 2016, kind of got shot down. But listen to this. It's a simple search. You can do it yourself, and I just did it again, because I always doubt the number, but it's the God's honest truth, right? Cheese in Canada. Dairy products, but specifically cheese. How much are we getting charged? What's the tariff percentage from Canada on what we, as a country, are paying for cheese imports? Which, of course, in dairy and cheese winds up costing us at Publix or Winn-Dixie or Star Market, whatever your local grocery store is, wherever you are in the country, right? This is fact. According to the Mexico-Canada agreement, for most cheese, including cheddar, I don't know why they wanted to put that in there. I'm going by Grok, by the way, but a Google search said the exact same thing. The tariff is 245.5% to the U.S. You heard that right. 245.5% when imports surpass the agreed-upon tariff rate quota, which they always do. Why are we taking on Canada? Stop picking on Canada. That's why. That's one example. The cheese example. And everybody uses that, including me, because it kind of brings it on home, right? I mean, it's like, who doesn't buy cheese or dairy at some point in time? That's why they're taking this on. Speaking of Canada, by the way, and I give the hosts of CNBC credit on this. Didn't see it live, but they had Doug Ford on. Doug Ford's a politician in Canada. He's the premier of the Ontario province, whatever. Basically caved on the tariffs idea live on the air. And I give whichever CNBC host was that asked him the question on this. I give him credit for actually saying this. He said, well, if you're caving on this, why hasn't this been the case all along? This is Doug Ford and the CNBC yesterday. Listen to what he says about tariffs. They already caved. They already won. Listen to it.
You're saying you take all your tariffs off. I'm saying
we will take them off. That's right.
Then why is that not? I guess my question is, why has all of that not already happened? And does President Trump know that you'd be prepared to do that?
He knows, and Secretary Lutnick knows that we're willing to take these tariffs off.
Okay, so this is mid-afternoon. This is an interview they had with this Doug Ford guy. I think it was within the hour when the president's press conference wrapped up for the White House yesterday. The guy caved on his tariffs out of his province. That's the biggest province in Canada. Immediately, live on the air. And again, good for that host to say, well, why have you kept him in place if you're willing to cave on it right now? Here's the thing. Canada announced that would drop the tariffs right now if we do. And I think Trump's making him sweat. He hasn't dropped them yet, but he probably will. And the cheese example, 245% increase. That's what we're getting charged for cheese out of Canada. That's going to go down. So that's where the price is. But in the short term, are we willing to put up with the pain? I don't know. I think so. Maybe. But that's why that's happening. But I have my questions too. I'm with you. I'm like, well, these tariffs, is the cost of a car, going to go through the roof because of this? Because, cars and cheese, that's a different kind of thing. The automakers, they're gonna hold a lot tougher than Canada will. You know what I mean? Like the foreign automakers, that's gonna be a lot tougher. Like next time I try to buy a car, is it gonna go through the roof? I tend to go to the people who actually manufacture these things, which is why, remember I was saying Trump's good about explaining things? Had a United Auto Workers union rep there yesterday explaining it as well. This made all the sense in the world to me. Here he is.
I have watched my entire life, plant after plant after plant in Detroit and in the Metro Detroit area close. There are now plants sitting idle. There are now plants that are underutilized. And Donald Trump's policies are going to bring product back into those underutilized plants. There's going to be new investment. There's going to be new plants built.
I hope so. And I think maybe when you hear the United Auto Workers guys say that, who traditionally aren't Republicans, some are independents, but most of them have voted Democrat as a union. When you hear him say that, from my little pea brain, the way I process things, okay. That's why I'm glad he brought, yes, his charts, but also speakers like that to the presentation yesterday, because now I understand it. Okay, so that's how the foreign automakers and the other countries get around this tariff stuff. Bring manufacturing here. So if it's made in the U.S., that's going to make a lot more sense. That's the incentive. So here's the question. Are we tough enough? Do we have the mindset not as a country to put up with this then, right at first, to be tough enough to get long-term gain? I think we are this time. I got to be honest with you. I really think it's going to have a long-term benefit. But I laughed out loud when I heard the Canadian guy, though, caving already live on the air on CNBC. He's already dropping the tariffs, but Trump didn't respond to him. It's going to make the Canadian guy sweat it out a little bit. All right, so that's tariffs. That's my tariff talk anyway. I know it can be very boring, but remember, it's boring. That's how we got here, because none of us wanted to pay attention to tax and tariffs before. But here we are. Have you ever talked about it so much in your life? That's the Trump effect, I think. Well, unfortunately, folks, we've got another naked passenger story to talk about. And you hear this and you hear, what's this noise you're playing, Bill? What is this? You hear the guy at the beginning there, too. Hey, hey, hey. The most amazing, you've probably seen the video already, Fort Lauderdale Airport, which is, I think, if it's not the hub of Spirit Airlines, it's one of their big ones. But this is where all the fight videos take place, all the Spirit passengers. Sometimes they get on the air, on the airplane itself, and then they get naked. But this lady decided to get naked right at the gate, stripping down over God knows what. We'll never find out what the problem was. If you watch the video on this, the incredible thing is the other passengers, you know, it's like when you're sitting in the rows of chairs and waiting for your flight, and most people are just like, they're on their phone, you know, they're not really paying attention, they're sleepy. It was an early morning flight. And this crazy person is getting naked right behind them before the Broward County cops, you know, wrangled her up and did it. I know Spirit Airlines has been called the Walmart of the skies. I know, I get it, right? I know it's been called the ghetto in the sky. I've heard that one too. I get it, right? I get it. But it's unfair for that airline to have to go through this. There's two questions. Why does this always happen to Spirit? the bigger question is, why are there so many naked crazy people now? I know you've noticed it too. Why? I think the reason is they're crazy, but they're not dumb. Nobody wants to apprehend, thank God the Broward County cops did in Florida. Nobody really wants to tackle or apprehend or deal with a naked person. I first noticed this on that show Cops. You remember those Cops? Remember when that was on the air? When some person would be running from the cops, they'd start to get naked because I think the cops, they hesitate just a little bit to tackle that person. I think the crazy people know this. I think they're starting to get hip to it. So there's more and more crazy people getting naked when they're causing a scene in an outburst, like this lady in Fort Lauderdale. Just saying. Because you don't want to deal with that. If there's anything I can leave you with this, if you're like the people not paying attention at the gateway there, and this was just the other day, and it was a morning flight, they weren't paying attention to it. You got to pay better attention. But you don't want to get near a crazy person, number one. But a naked crazy person, don't deal with it. But I think it's an unfair. I think the airline itself for Spirit, which has been called the Walmart of the skies, it's not. That's unfair. That's unfair to Walmart. It's unfair to Spirit. It's not their fault that their prices are low and most of the crazy people go on their flights. That much we know. You've seen the fight videos. A lot of them out of Fort Lauderdale Airport. Most of them out of Spirit. And that's not the only airline that goes through this, but they're one of them. I'm just telling you, don't mess with crazy people. Really don't mess with naked crazy people. And they know that. Let the professionals handle that. I'm just telling you. All right, here's a heartwarming story to get out of this. And then I'll let you go. Deportations are happening left and right, more and more. More MS-13 gang members are being deported. More Tren de Aragua gang members are being deported en masse. Not only that, there was an announcement from Pam Bondi the other day, the Attorney General, who said the centralized gang leaders of these organizations are getting deported. There was the false story, the fake news from 2 days ago that I even talked about, where it said a father was mistakenly deported. Idiot. No, as it turns out, he was an MS-13 gang member. Don't believe all the misinformation and the fake news that the media is trying to throw at you at these. Don't even buy it, because who they're targeting right now, en masse, are the gang members. Or in this case, cartel supporting deportations. Let's go to the New York Post for this story. And this is a doozy. Here's the headline. Members of a cartel supporting mariachi band have had their visas revoked. Adios. Now, how did this all happen? Oh, it's an amazing story. Okay, I'm just going to read it for you. This is a lot of reading, but you got to read this one. This is incredible. So a very popular and very well-to-do and very successful Mexican band have had their U.S. visa revoked after they were accused of glorifying a drug kingpin during a recent performance. And the feds think this happens at all of their performances because it's actually built into their stage presentation. Listen to this. The move was taken after an image of the leader of the infamous Jalisco New Generation Cartel, it's even got an acronym, CJING, I guess. I don't know. I'm not too up on my cartels. Forgive me. Was projected onto a screen at a recent concert by the group Los Alegres del Barranco, says Deputy Secretary of State Christopher Landau. So not only are they probably honestly funded and promoted by this cartel, they actually haven't worked in, and they play big festivals. I saw some of the videos of these guys. Like, they're really popular. Like, they play before tens of thousands of people. Not only did they get up there and maybe in front of a microphone and say, hey, this is our cartel, whatever, thank you, cartel, whatever. They had it built into their show, a projected image behind the stage of this cartel leader. The group was formed in the Mexican state of Sinaloa in 2005, scheduled to perform at more than a dozen U.S. tour dates this year, including in Alabama, California, Kentucky, Oklahoma, and Texas. And they're really popular. After the image of the cartel leader, whose name is, and I'll attempt this, Nemesio Oseguera Ramos, commonly known as El Mencho, was featured at a performance. The U.S. State Department came down hard on the group. Well, you can't fix stupid. If you're going to play in the U.S. and you project images of cartel leaders, you could probably expect to have your visas revoked. To that, there's nothing else to say but adios. All right, our first takeaway. Don't believe what they're telling you about these tariffs because I think it's actually going to work. And remember the Canadian cheese example. Look that up on your own. It's unbelievable. Second takeaway is don't ever mess with crazy people, especially the naked ones, and don't take any crap from anybody. All right? And if you are in a mariachi band, don't promote cartels at your live shows. That's all I have to say about it. Hey, tomorrow's Friday. How about that? A little bit of advance information. Apparently, there's a massive protest against Doge planned for this weekend. It's going to happen on Saturday. I'll try to pick up some information on that to try to deal with that. We'll talk about that, but some Friday fun stuff coming up tomorrow in the meantime. Thanks for finding the audio podcast as well. Wherever you like to find those, just look for Wicked Radio and Wicked Wisdom on the Facebook and YouTube pages. And with that said, have a wicked awesome Thursday. We're almost to Friday. We'll talk to you tomorrow.